Today's conversation is with Vlad, founder of Masterly. Vlad works closely with early stage and scaling SaaS companies, helping them think more deeply about product, UX, and how design supports long-term growth, especially in a time where speed and AI are changing how companies are built. Rather than focusing on hype or tactics, this conversation is about Vlad's journey into building Masterly, how his thinking has evolved over time, and what he's learned alongside founders as they scale. So, Vlad, welcome to the Saas Playbook. I know we are SaaS adjacent, but I think it's really lovely to be able to provide an outside perspective into the SaaS industry. But before we talk about Masterly, I'd love to go back a little bit. What were you doing professionally before you started the studio, and what experiences early on pushed you towards design and UX as a career path?
Hi, Jenny. Thank you for invitation. I'm really happy to be here. A complex question. I actually started with different area, then I switched to IT. And before I started my studio, of course, the main point for me was to understand how the industry works, how company actually works in this industry. So I just started freelancing. I already had some good skill of English since it's not my native one, and I was able to manage freelance project, and I felt that I was pretty good with that. I went to one agency, worked as an agency, then I went to a US startup already as a product design lead. I got my first management experience. After that, I was able to work in a large design corporation. I worked with big tech companies and big enterprises as a design director and manage much bigger team and got much better managing large scale projects and customers. And then I realized, okay, now it's time to move. I decided I want to build something that will be kind of like my child. And this was the best solution in my life, I guess, because maybe after launching Masterly, I realized, okay, now I'm on the right path. And finally, I'm really doing what I love.
That's a really beautiful story. And it touches nicely that you were able to go through the career paths to gather those experiences even before trying to start something on your own. When it comes to the SaaS industry, I would say, and this is definitely generalizing, but a lot of people just go and say, look, I'm going to go and start this business or this company on my own, get some VC backed ventures and just run with it, right? And that sort of leads us into the question of, well, why do they consider UX last? But it's nice that you were able to gather those experiences along the way because it builds you as a stronger person to be in business, to therefore look after your teams because you've obviously experienced it before. What was the moment where you realized you didn't want to do UX work, but actually build a business around it?
I would say that everything is preparation. And before you start something new, it's important to prepare very carefully, make deep research and all this stuff. So I had this feeling that I need to build something by myself from the early years, I guess, because like I've been working on any roles, different roles with different companies, different industries, right? And all the time you live with the feeling that you're not getting enough. Like you always hungry to something new, to new knowledge, to new opportunities, for money, especially that important in young years, right? Like when you're a student, this is main thing what you're thinking about, right? So it was natural. Once I started delivering projects for clients, I realized that I can do it. I just realized I can do it. Sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's challenging, but this is what I was able to do, and I started getting skills on it. The main challenge was that once you become highly experienced expert in your niche, and let's say you are super senior designer, you can be a wonderful specialist, but not always you can be a wonderful manager. Not always you can be a wonderful business manager, because when you start your business, you don't have sales team, you don't have marketing team, you don't have the generation team, you don't have project manager team. You are starting like one man, like I started as one man with great expertise, that should be scalable. But the things like sales, marketing, all this stuff, this is a very, very new area that I had to go through it and
Yeah.
made a lot of mistakes, still doing it, but also getting some good things.
Going back to your first point, all business owners or at least entrepreneurs have that feeling I want to create something of my own, my little baby, right? I'm almost on a very similar path. Very similar in the sense that I've gone through the ranks, managed teams, just from a sales perspective. That's the only difference. I'm young enough to give it a good try. If it doesn't work out, employment will always be there. Love that you had that sort of ability to understand. Obviously, when you first start, you're going to have to do everything yourself. You're going to have to learn. But after some time, you start to learn, okay, well, what can I outsource? What am I naturally good at? And what am I not so good at? And then outsource, right? That's sort of the cornerstone, ensuring that obviously you have enough cash flow, but that's the cornerstone of starting to build those blocks in business, right?
Yeah. It's juggling. Always is you, because you have to learn, you have to scale, you should maintain the cash flow. All this, like this, all the same things any early business face with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun.
Really, entrepreneurs are just really great jugglers, right? They just juggle better than the normal person.
Yeah, I would say like once I've heard one that one of the main skill of every entrepreneur is being adventurous. So only if you are adventurous, if you're ready to take risk, if you are not afraid of the challenges, and if you're ready to study on the go when you don't have time. Business is the thing that that you usually do in the circumstances of limited resources and time. And only if you are adventurous enough, you can go through it.
But you start to get creative, right? Because you have limited resources, so therefore you have to become extremely creative as to how are you going to achieve the outcome you set out. And then you sit down and you assess, okay, what is the outcome and what is the cost for me to take on board learning a new skill? Most entrepreneurs will try to do it themselves initially and then learn really fast that it's probably not a good idea for me to focus on this area of the business. For me personally, it's finance. I'm not a huge fan of finance, but I'm sure you can agree everyone has that thing that they're just not good at. So it's just outsource and get rid of it, right? So you've worked with companies from pre-seed all the way through to Series A and scaling stages. How has your perspective on startups and founders changed as you've seen teams grow under pressure?
They always have challenge for sure, right? And depending on which stage you are, you have different challenges. It's always a bottleneck between you start with like you solo SaaS, or you have a few partners, five people in the team, and it's very different when you have a team of 10, 20, 50, 100 of people. And you must have the process. I would say the key perspective for all startups is it's important to have a really nice prioritization and to be able to select the direction that actually works in this specific period of time. The great example is the book that is called Rework, right? The book that explains that for business to have success, you don't need complicated structure. You don't need like the office. You don't need the merge. You don't need a large team. You don't have to hire enterprise consultants for super simple things. So remove everything that is not essential and nurture your business. So MVP lean approach is the best thing that you can do. If you are on pre-seed, start small. Make sure you had at least something work. Once your idea, like you have at least some prototype that works, you can already like involve other people into that. You could involve some investments and then build everything carefully. Do not go do not spend all resources because it will only lead to burnout and not to the success. So depending on the stage where you are, you must carefully select which efforts you need to spend on your product and move wisely.
And timing is very important as well, just to add to what you were saying. I think moving and choosing and doing the research and even getting feedback from your early on beta testing clients is really helpful. And another guest actually mentioned that very similarly when he said, just keep trying, keep testing. And then what you should really focus on is reinvesting your resources back into making the delivery better. And that way you can sort of proof of concept, but also make sure you deliver a really great service or product for the end user and just maintain that constant feedback loop. So it's a lot of similarities in this industry, regardless if you're in the industry or you're adjacent. A lot of founders treat UX as something to fix later, while they sort of focus more on speed, features, making things look shiny and polished. From what you've seen, what actually happens to products or services that take that approach?
I would say that sometimes UX is underrated because if you say that we will fix UX later, you have a very high risk that you will not even deliver. As I said, the most important part of any business is preparation, and UX is a kind of preparation. When we build products, the most like heavyweight thing in the design process is ideation and planning, because depending on how accurately you ideate and plan your product, then the easiest journey you will have in the end of the day. We never, it's not about making pretty things, it's about the vision. It's more visionary thing that you must develop before you move forward. You go on the car trip without knowing your final destination and for destination, you open like Google Maps or other GPS, you have your journey and you have everything planned. The same with the product, you must have the roadmap, you must have your MVP features list, and you must have the vision how these features will look. So it makes sense to build a great backend, right? But it will never show you how it must look. And your main stakeholder in your product will always be your user. So if you don't invest in satisfying your user, why actually users must deliver you their attention?
That's a really good perspective. Essentially, what I heard just now, it's the exact same thing as building a house without the plans or without the blueprints, right? I don't know what it is about the SaaS industry where I'll take that back. It's not just the SaaS industry by itself as an isolation. It's a lot of industries when they come to market, they do think about UX last. I'm included, to be honest with you, because I was like, I just want to prove that this is going to work first before we can then invest and obviously refocus on that at a later stage. Going back to our previous conversation about being able to put your resources in the right areas at the right time. So the next question is a little bit more interesting for an AI perspective. So with AI tools accelerating development and allowing teams to build faster with fewer engineers, how do you see the role of UX and product thinking changing in this new landscape of AI?
Okay. Honestly, I see the UX UI role here pretty well. I would be more concerned about development side of things, because already few of my clients who built their MVP with a custom code after they made the design, they told me that if you want to test something, for us, the main priority is to move really fast. And when you go back to development all the time, it takes a lot of time to change something. It ends up with high billing. And when you must make small tweaks rapidly, it's not efficient with a custom code. Instead, they started building it with AI, like with Lovable, with Replit, with other apps, and it helps them to maintain this early stage infrastructure with AI, and they just making the tweaks with simple prompts without involving the whole team of the engineers. This very good for business. Then I asked them, what do you think about designers? Do you still need a designer, or should I look for other opportunities? And they told, the good thing about design is that you can really do things really fast, and it is more about like strategic design thinking. It's about planning. Let's say AI cannot deliver to you perfect user experience, right? You must have the human brain for that. You must have UX UI designer experience and background. But if you don't use AI, doing all this stuff, unlikely you will succeed, because AI now it's like a suit of an Iron Man, right? is a like highly technological extension of your skills and talent. So it helps you to do the UX. It's really helpful with user experience resource. It helps to prioritize the meeting, prioritize the important information from meeting transcripts. So you can run user research, make AI note taker, then consolidate all it, find out what is the most important, plan how to use it. It can help you to build the strategy. It can help you much faster to create jobs to be done list for different screens. It helps you to build flow maps. It helps you to brainstorm. It's like companion. Like previously, you always had brainstorm with the team, or you had like discussions with inside voice, right, to brainstorm things. Now you can do it everything faster. You don't need to check others' availability. You just open your companion and you plan all this stuff. So in terms of design, I believe that a lot of assets could be produced with AI. Social media could be produced like in AI Canva. I think it's just only the question of the time when it will be good enough, like the same as designers do. I think you could do landing pages and launch it in with AI. You could launch websites. You can launch apps. You can build any interface in Lovable. But in terms of user experience, I think this stage of ideation, of the planning, of the research, strategic sides will be by humans supported and strengthened by AI.
You touched quite nicely there that AI can do a lot of data analytics and metrics and deliverability and making things convenient. But I don't think AI is anywhere near thinking like a human brain because it doesn't understand emotions. It does from a very macro perspective, but not a micro perspective. And unfortunately, at least from my opinion, when it comes to UX and AI, the gap is just a little too wide. It can do probably 75% of the coding, but like you said earlier, it's not the best. Even though the bugs come out and they've come out with new engines to actually fix the bugs, but the whole idea was user experience, very shortly put, and then bring that to a real engineer. But the real engineer would come back and say, look, this is too messy. Like it's everywhere because of what it spits out of the engine. But like you said, yeah, I'm sure that engineers these days were like, no, that we're not touching that. And from a surface level, with just one landing page, it's fine, right? When you want to dig in deeper and have like a placeholder where potential customers would go and actually look, you find that it's not, it doesn't work. The buttons don't work, the structure's off, the ratio's off, and it just looks weird. You can tell straight away, right? But when you think about scaling your studio, how do you balance momentum with clarity, usability, and long-term product vision?
I think in our case, the most important is never accept sacrificing the quality, because this is what the majority of teams like us face. When you get a lot in the pipeline, you must manage a lot of things, and then sometimes they are losing the quality, they are losing the control on some specific projects, then you get the loss of clients' loyalty, right? And then the clock mechanism doesn't work properly. So the thing that I'm envisioning is having the system that works no matter how many participants inside this system. So I'm building the team units that can manage specific scopes of the work. Everyone knows what to do. They have very strict process and understanding their area of responsibility. And then we are just naturally adding new people to the units once we are getting more demand. So more demand, it's like micro teams inside our team. And once we see the grow in the demand, then we just adding people, or if this micro team is full, we are building a new micro team and adding new people. And this is a natural like scaling of the capacities that we have.
So it's been quite natural for you to operate that way when you think about scaling, which I think is pretty standard. I mean, You trial with a smaller team, understand the demand and delivery, and then adjust as you go. But I do have one last question for you, Vlad, and this is probably for some young aspiring entrepreneurs that want to follow the UX experience under Vlad's scope. What's one advice you wish you had received before starting your studio, and why?
Prepare better, make deeper research, don't rush, and that's it. That's the most important. Prepare better, make research, invest in marketing more.
And why do you say that? Because you keep referring back to preparation, right? So that tells me it's quite important for you, especially in UX, but also what you do. But why is preparation so important to you?
Because I'm the kind of adventurer person that got used to do a lot of things on the go. It started from school. Like I would rather go to the challenge rather than preparing to that, and it was always kind of my weak point, right? So the idea, like the way how you can get success, you must contribute to your strengths, but also solve your weak points. So I'm solving my weak points and trying to prepare better. I think it's pretty clear, right? If you are a specialist and you don't have experience in business, you are very focused on the technical part of things, right? But this is what you can do. But you must, when you do business and when you take responsibility on other people, and right on your life, you must do the things that you don't know how to do, and it's very common, that senior designer becomes an entrepreneur or senior developer becomes an entrepreneur. They know their craft but they don't know marketing, and then they build team but they don't get the demand, right? So main advice is build marketing first, then build a team. But because once you have demand, the technical side, you will cover it because you're an expert with that.
That's a very interesting perspective. Preparation is key. Essentially, in no matter what aspect of the business you're either trying to learn or you can learn well still, I think it is good practice to prepare. That also resonates with me a lot because I also used to be very impulsive and I'm like, just go, 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 go. And you make more mistakes than trying to avoid them. Just go and experience it and then you'll learn the lessons eventually. That's how my brain works. But I'm also trying to prepare and plan better. So I like that we're on the same page there.
Majority of people do like that. It's a simple human factor. If the business was that easy, that everyone would be entrepreneur, everyone would be super rich in wealth. But this is very complicated, right? And it's natural to not know something. But it's important to be adventurous. Don't be afraid of challenges and make a continuous learning.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be challenges in business, no matter what stage. And going back, preparation is key. Prepare for the challenges. And if you can prepare and expect the challenges, you won't be as surprised when they do come. Vlad, thank you so much for sharing your perspective and experiences, especially around design, UX, and leadership in how they intersect as you help companies grow. What really stands out is how much building a scalable product comes down to intention and preparation, not just speed. And that's something a lot of founders don't really hear often enough. For anyone listening, we'll include Vlad's details and Masterly Digital in the show notes if you'd like to learn more about his work. Do highly recommend it because it's amazing, highly interactive. But Vlad, thank you so much for featuring on the podcast. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Jenny. It was great to attend.